As Amaka walked fast, her heart was beating fast. The forest was dark and quiet, too quiet. Then suddenly, she heard a strange growl behind her. She turned quickly. Her eyes widened. Out of the shadows, some strange creatures came out. They looked like wild dogs, but their bodies were not normal. Their eyes were shining red, glowing in the dark as they ran after her. Amaka screamed and started running as fast as she could. Her chest was heavy, her legs were shaking, but before she could go far, her foot hit a stone. She stumbled and fell hard to the ground, and the creatures were already getting closer. A few months earlier, at the University of Nigeria in Nsukka, Amaka walked out of her department. Just then, a white SUV rolled and stopped in front of her. Her eyes widened and her heart screamed, "Money na water, oh, hey." "This is the latest SUV in town," Amaka said to herself. She quickly slipped on her stylish black shades, ran her fingers through her hair, and pulled out a small mirror from her bag. "Na man dey that car. I know say na man dey that car. Are they sure?" she murmured. And she was right. The door opened and a handsome man stepped out. Amaka slowly walked towards him, swinging her waist as best as she could, hoping he would notice her. She brushed her shoulder close to him, but his eyes weren't on her. They were on the beautiful lady walking behind her. He smiled at the lady and waved warmly. Amaka turned sharply. It was Ifoma. Her smile faded, replaced by a cold glare. She walked away with anger and jealousy in her eyes. "Hey God, how my mates take dey see all these big boys now? Na bad luck I carry come from my village," she murmured. Among her classmates, Amaka was called the Shakara Queen, always chasing Odogu men with money and power. But she hadn't always been like this. She was the only child of her mother, a strict woman from Mbitolu, Imo State. Her mother had raised her alone after Amaka's father denied the pregnancy and abandoned them. Growing up in the village, her mother's biggest dream was for Amaka to marry a good, responsible man, not a man who would treat her the way she had been treated. Amaka's mother sold okrika wares in the market and also helped people cultivate their farms. This was her little way of making money for her and her daughter. While Amaka was waiting for her admission results into the university, she met Chidi. He was calm, quiet and handsome, a very reserved man. He always admired her each time she came to his small shop to buy beverages and toiletries. The shop was just a short walk from Amaka's house. After some time, they began to flow well with each other and soon became very close. Chidi asked Amaka to be his girlfriend, and they kept their relationship quiet so that Amaka's mother wouldn't find out. A few months later, Amaka got admission into the University of Nigeria in Nsukka. She always dressed like one Mbeke. Her clothes were always out of fashion, very long, and mostly the ones her mother had packed for her when she left for school. Most of her classmates looked down on her, and some didn't even want to mingle with her. Chidi noticed how her dressing made her look like a village girl. Each time he visited her in school, he would buy her nice dresses, shoes, and handbags so she could fit in. After Chidi bought clothes for her, Amaka began to look a little flashy and more beautiful. Amaka had a close friend. Her name was Chioma. She didn't care about her looks but valued her kind and beautiful personality. They were roommates and also in the same department. Chioma always rejoiced whenever Chidi came to visit. The moment he brought out those neat, simple, beautiful clothes, Chioma would clap her hands and tease. "Hey, see your boyfriend though. He's just changing your style. Not be that Mbeke clothes where you dey wear all the time." Chidi would laugh and shake his head. "Leave my beautiful lady alone, oh, Biko." The three of them would burst into laughter. Most times after his visit, when Chidi was heading back to the village, he would say, "Come on ladies, let's go and get some ice cream and shawarma before I leave." The girls would jump up, rush to their bags, and pick out their nicest clothes. They would take pictures, laugh in the taxi until they got to the ice cream joint. Once Chidi was done buying for them, he would wave them goodbye and head home. Chioma admired their relationship so much, not because he had much money, but because it was an honest one. There was no shouting, there was no cheating, and no drama. She had no boyfriend. She believed most campus boys were not serious and didn't want any distractions. But before Chidi met Amaka, his life had already been a story worth telling. Chidi was a university graduate from the University of Ilorin. In his final year, he was the best graduating student in the engineering department. After his NYSC in Uyo, his supervisor was so impressed with him that he recommended Chidi to a company in Lagos. They didn't just give him a job, they gave him a good salary, a company car, and a comfortable apartment. Within a year, Chidi's hard work began to pay off. He was promoted to a higher position, and the company even sponsored some of his trips to other countries. His future was bright and promising. One year, during a short vacation, Chidi decided to travel home to visit his parents in the village. His parents were retired teachers living in a modest apartment. They enjoyed the quiet life of farming and being close to home. When Chidi drove into the village with the shiny company car, the sound of the horn echoed on the dusty roads. Chicken ran in all directions. Some small boys stopped rolling their bicycle rims and just stared with open mouth. Before long, the news had spread in the village. From one corner, Mama Ikenna came running like somebody chasing a bus. She was flipping her wrapper up and down as she hurried. Her bare feet raised clouds of red dust. Chidi, my son, oh, welcome, oh, she shouted, smiling from ear to ear. Her eyes moved from Chidi to the car. See our pikin, see how Lagos don't change you. Chai, ewo. Chidi smiled and bent to greet her. Mama Ikenna, good afternoon. As they laughed, he asked, Mama, how is Ikenna? You know we both graduated from the same department. Mama Ikenna sighed and adjusted her wrapper. My son is in Onitsha, still looking for work. You know this country, no job anywhere. But God will help him. Chidi nodded slowly. God will help indeed. Soon, more relatives gathered. Chidi opened the car boot and started bringing out bags of rice, yam, cartons of drinks with other goodies he had bought. His mother's face shone with joy as she called her relatives to share with them. After a few days, Mama Ikenna's son returned home for a visit. Over the evening meal, she told him how Chidi had grown into a successful big city boy in Lagos. She also told him that this might be the perfect chance to speak with him. Perhaps Ikenna could help him find work. When they visited Chidi, they pleaded earnestly. Chidi, who was generous at heart, agreed. A week later, when he returned to Lagos, Ikenna went with him. At first, life in Lagos was harder than Ikenna had imagined. Weeks turned into months without a job. His little savings ran dry and discouragement crept in. Then one evening, Chidi returned from work holding a stack of papers. My company just announced job openings, he said. Just try and apply quickly, you might be lucky. So Ikenna applied and luck smiled on him. He got the job. For a while, life seemed brighter. But soon, jealousy began to poison his heart. He noticed how Chidi was favored at the company, always trusted, always respected. One day, something happened at the company. A very important document, one that could cost the company greatly if not submitted on time, was given to Chidi. He placed it carefully on his table inside a file. Later, when Chidi stepped out, Ikenna quietly entered his office without anyone seeing him. He took the file from the table. A few days passed. Chidi searched everywhere for the missing document, but it was gone. So because the paper was not submitted on time, the company lost a big opportunity and suffered a huge financial loss. The management blamed Chidi for being careless and soon removed him from his position. Chidi was heartbroken. He never suspected anyone could have done this, nor did he suspect Ikenna at all. Because of the pain and shame he felt, he packed his things, left Lagos and went back to his village. This was how he opened a small provision shop and started life all over again. 2 years after Amaka gained admission into the university, with Chidi constantly visiting and assisting her in his own little way, everything was going fine and beautifully. But one afternoon, Chidi came to see Amaka, and this time it was to share big news. He told her he would be traveling to Australia. He had been quietly applying for jobs and luckily he got one over there. The company promised to sponsor everything and he was ready to travel. Amaka was very happy for him, but she was also a little sad. She knew she would miss seeing him around. Still, they promised to always keep in touch. A few months later, Chidi finally traveled. Settling into a new country wasn't easy for him, but he always kept in touch with Amaka. However, as time went on, distance slowly began to feel like a barrier. He became busier, and due to some challenges he was facing, he couldn't call or reply to Amaka often as before. One hot afternoon at the students' lodge, a final year student moved into the room that was next to Amaka and Chioma's room. It was so obvious that he was a very wealthy guy, and his arrival quickly caught everyone's attention in the lodge. At first, Amaka didn't pay much attention to the guy. She was still thinking about Chidi, and Nelson was just the new guy that was next door. But Nelson had a charm that was hard to ignore. He was tall, well-dressed, and always carried himself with quiet confidence. His expensive cars, designer clothes, and the way he treated everyone with respect made him stand out. He started greeting Amaka whenever he saw her. Sometimes he would offer to drop her off on campus. Slowly, their short chats turned into longer conversations. He would ask her about her day, he would listen attentively, and even crack jokes that made her laugh so hard. Chioma noticed the way Amaka's face lit up whenever Nelson was around her. Amaka, I hope you know what you're doing, oh, she teased one evening. Amaka laughed it off, insisting, I beg. Nelson is just a friend, don't go there. But deep down, Amaka had already begun to feel something for her new next door neighbor. While Chidi was still struggling abroad, he never knew another man was already feeling the silence his absence had left. At first, Amaka still thought about Chidi every night. She would scroll through their old chats, stare at his pictures, and tell herself to be patient. But patience is easier when your heart isn't being tugged in a different direction. Nelson just knew how to make an impression. He would drive back to the students' lodge in a brand new car every week. This week, it would be a sleek black G-Wagon. Next week, it would be a shiny red Range Rover. Sometimes he would come back from lectures with some goodies in a shopping bag, and he would hand Chioma and Amaka little gifts without expecting anything in return. One Friday evening, Nelson invited them to lounge in town. "No darling, this weekend, let's enjoy ourselves," he said with a smile. Chioma hesitated, but Amaka surprised her. "Why not? It's just an outing," she said. That night, under the warm glow of the lounge lights, with music thumping and expensive champagne flowing, Amaka laughed harder than she had in months. She wore a new dress Nelson had bought for her earlier that day, and when she caught herself in the mirror, she almost didn't recognize the confident young woman staring back. Days began to turn into weeks, and the change was so obvious. The Amaka who once valued simple calls with Chidi now found herself checking her phone less for his messages and more for Nelson's messages. She started wearing heavier makeup, styling her hair more often, and carrying herself like she was part of a different world. Chioma pulled her aside one afternoon. Amaka, this is not you. Seriously, what is going on? You have changed though. Amaka smiled. "Maybe I just want more out of life, Chioma. Is that so bad? Is it?" Chioma stood confused as she looked at her friend and roommate walk away. But inside, Amaka knew this wasn't the plan she had for herself earlier. She had once promised to wait for Chidi, but now she was living the life of someone who had tasted the glitter of an Odogu's attention. Chidi eventually managed to reach Amaka, apologizing for the long silence and explaining the challenges he had been facing. She accepted his apology, speaking to him as though all was well, but deep down, things had already changed. By that time, she had already started going out with Nelson. Nelson never clearly defined their relationship, but they had become intimate and Amaka didn't mind. To her, the attention, luxury and excitement he brought were enough. It was now obvious that Amaka's eyes were set on only the Odogus, and everyone in her department noticed it. She barely mingled with other classmates anymore, carrying herself like someone far above their level. In her mind, she was too classy now, rolling with a big boy on campus. Chioma tried several times to talk her out of it, to remind her of who she used to be, but Amaka never listened. The shining in her new life was too bright for her to see the warning signs. After a year of Chidi staying over there, he got a call from his former company, and the company apologized for what had happened, revealing to him that Ikenna was the one who set him up and took the documents away. And the company sacked Ikenna, and he was persecuted for his actions. During that same period, Ikenna was given a little break to come home for vacation in Nigeria. He wanted to surprise Amaka, so he came down without telling her. He bought a very expensive gift for his girl. When he arrived at the campus, he dressed so simple because Chidi was never the kind of man to show off money. He was a very humble person. He went straight to Amaka and Chioma's lodge. When he reached their door, he was holding a loaf of bread in his hand. He knocked on the door, and they came out. Surprisingly, they saw Chidi. Amaka hugged him, but she looked a little disappointed. His looks did not give that flashy feeling of a man that came from abroad. Chidi was so happy to see her. Chioma was also very excited. Chidi gave the loaf of bread to Amaka, thinking she would take it with joy. But to his surprise, Amaka was no longer the simple village girl he used to know. She opened the nylon and she saw bread and said, "Wait, oh, Chidi, wait. What is this? You bought bread for me after traveling all the way from Australia?" Chidi smiled. "Calm down, my love." But Amaka was so angry that she threw the bread at him. Chidi stood there, shocked. This was not the Amaka he used to know. Chioma, who stood watching the whole drama, was trying to tell Amaka to calm down. She was not supposed to start shouting or trying to embarrass her boyfriend in the lodge. Chidi was so disappointed. Amaka stood there and told him she had been wasting her time with him. Bread. Common bread. That's what you brought from Australia. Ha! I can see I look like a joke to you. This relationship is over. I cannot be wasting my time. I've had enough patience with you. Chidi left without the bread, so disappointed and angry at Amaka. He kept wondering what had come over her and what changed. The truth is that Chidi had planned to engage Amaka once he came home. He wanted to surprise her, so he called a woman he used to know from Enugu City. The woman was a bread baker and she made special bread. So before that, Chidi had gotten a beautiful ring for Amaka and even bought a car. He asked the company to deliver the ring and the car key to the baker. And he told the baker to find a way to put them inside the bread just to surprise Amaka. So when he got back to Nigeria, before reaching her school, he dropped by to collect the bread. While Chidi was on his way out of the campus, Chioma picked up the bread and ran to meet him. She tried to talk to him and apologized on behalf of her friend. Chidi just stood there and laughed. How people change. God. How long have I been gone? Not so long. After everything? Well, this is life. I am not so surprised. I only thought she would be different from the day I set my eyes on her. Chioma offered to at least visit him where he was staying so they could settle things, but Chidi kept telling her there was no need. Due to Chioma insisting, he gave her the hotel number of his lodge, but warned her that he didn't want to see Amaka again. Amaka didn't even care. That evening, when she went to see Nelson in his room, She was surprised to see him with two other girls drinking and having fun. A little jealousy crept in, but she turned back and left. She began to feel she wanted Nelson all to herself, but Nelson was a public man. No one could have him to themselves. After she returned quietly to her lodge, Amaka made up her mind. From now on, she would only roll with the big boys on campus. She didn't care if it wasn't Nelson. As long as they were rich enough to take care of her new lifestyle, she was ready. Meanwhile, Chioma was visiting Chidi often, trying to console him. She felt he didn't deserve the kind of treatment Amaka gave him. She had no idea that Chidi had made big plans for Amaka before everything went wrong. Chioma's gentle nature and understanding spirit touched Chidi. She was still the calm, kind person he remembered from before. Slowly, he began to feel close to her. When he traveled back to Australia, they kept in touch. Their phone conversations became warmer, and surprisingly, their friendship grew into something romantic. Chioma never told Amaka because she knew Amaka didn't care. After 2 years in Australia, Chidi came back home. This time, he wasn't coming to visit. He came to meet Chioma's family for their introduction and wedding ceremony. By then, the both of them had graduated from the university. When Chidi arrived, he proposed to Chioma with a ring that was one of a kind. Chioma, who didn't think her friend cared about Chidi anymore, went ahead to invite Amaka, her friend, to the wedding. When Chioma told Amaka about the wedding, Amaka pretended to be happy for her. She smiled and even congratulated her warmly, but inside, she was boiling with anger. 2 days later, she could no longer hide her feelings. The thought of her ex-boyfriend doing so well and her friend taking her place and even planning to travel to Australia burned her heart. Out of jealousy, she invited Chioma to accompany her to her village for a colleague's traditional wedding. She told Chioma it was a good idea since she too was about to get married. She even said the trip could help her gather ideas for her own big day. They finally traveled together. Chioma, who had grown up in the village with her mother, knew the place well. One evening, Amaka suggested they go to her family's farm to pick fresh vegetables. Chioma happily followed her. But as they walked, the path became lonely and quiet. The farm was surrounded by thick bushes, looking more like a forest than a farmland. When they reached a spot with a deep pit, Amaka suddenly turned to Chioma. "You took my man behind my back," she said angrily. "Do you expect me to just sit and watch the two of you live happily? It won't work." "Amaka," Chioma cried, "I didn't mean to do that. I didn't mean to do that. It was not on purpose, I promise." "Keep quiet!" Amaka shouted. "Just shut up. You've been looking at my man and now you have him." Before Chioma could speak again, Amaka pushed her so hard. Chioma screamed as she fell into the deep pit. Her voice echoed until it faded away. It was already getting dark and Amaka hurriedly ran fast as she could. Her heart was beating fast as she ran through the forest. Then she heard a strange, scary sound. When she looked back, she saw some frightening creatures in animal form with glowing red eyes. They looked like wild dogs running straight at her. Before she could run faster, her foot hit a stone. She stumbled and fell to the ground. The creatures pounced on her and they tore her into pieces. All that was left of Amaka was her torn and scattered clothes. 3 days passed and no one had seen Amaka or Chioma, who had told Amaka's mother they were only going for an evening stroll to get vegetables. A village search was carried out. People looked everywhere for them. After a week, someone brought news that they saw where wild animals had eaten someone and it looked like a woman. The villagers searched again and found Chioma in a deep pit, but it was too late. She was already dead. Sometimes, when people feel they've leveled up in life, they forget real friendships and the values that once mattered to them. And at the end of the day, when pride and love for material things control us, we just risk losing what truly matters. But in your opinion, who is really to blame here? I would really like to know your thoughts. Thank you so much for staying to the very end of this story. I still remain your storyteller, Ogene. Please subscribe to this channel. Give the video a thumbs up if you enjoyed the story. Until we meet again, besties, stay safe and remain blessed.